Okay, so here's the question. How do I process the loss of a loved one or grief in a biblical way? Now, this is a great question, and whoever asked this question, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Now, here's the deal. One, God is always near to the brokenhearted. So I think sometimes people believe that as followers of Jesus, we should not grieve. But really the Apostle Paul tells us that we're not people who grieve as those who have no hope. So God expects us to grieve. Of course, the shortest verse in the Bible is that Jesus wept. And that's in John chapter 11, when his friend Lazarus died. And Jesus knew he was going to die, and he knew he was going to raise him from the dead. So first is, I don't think we should feel bad at all about grief. Now, the first thing is we want to grieve as those who have hope in life after this life. And God realizes that in a fallen world where loved ones die and they leave our lives and there's all this brokenness, grief is part of the process. So that's the first thing. We want to grieve as those who have hope. Secondly, we want a Jesus-centered grieving. Now, here's the deal. In all of our lives, relationships are important to us, and depending on who's no longer there and what the reasons are, there's so many areas to grieve. But we always need to make sure that we're not allowing people who we care about, people who are close to us, to take that primary place that only Jesus is meant to occupy. And we realize that life is temporary for all of us on this side of eternity. And so we want to make sure that we don't have kind of some idolatry that can go on there. And that's a challenging thing where we take something that's good, whether it's a spouse or a child or a parent, it's a good thing, but we don't want to make it the ultimate thing. So we want to keep Jesus at the center of our grief. And then I think third, and this is very, very important, is I want to encourage you to invite people into your grieving, because we all need people. Nobody is strong all the time. I even think about Jesus. Remember on the night that he was betrayed, he went up out of the Garden of Gethsemane and he invited his three friends, Peter, James, and John, to be there with him as he was processing and grieving what he was going to go through to die on the cross for the sins of the world. And he was kind of bummed that his friends weren't there. But even if Jesus is looking to invite loved ones and friends into that grieving process, I want to encourage you to invite people to grieve with you, because as we grieve in community, we are allowed to be weak, and people will be strong and be able to be pillars for us to be able to lean on. So first, don't ever think that grieving is not biblical, because it's very biblical. It's very much in God's heart that we grieve, and we grieve as people with hope, Jesus at the center, and we invite people to join us in the grief. And I pray that as we grieve, God will really grow us through that, a deeper faith and a deeper love for people who may no longer be there. God bless you.